Welcome to this third edition of Plastics in SolidWorks. So currently we have a solid body. We actually have two solid bodies. So we have our top part, and then so I can click on either of the solid bodies and hide either one of them, and the bottom part. So for to start, I'm gonna just click once on it, and it should highlight in blue. So I'm going to call this one PCT for plastic component top and plastic component container bottom. So now I know which one's the top and the bottom. So the last feature I want to look at in the fastening features is a snap hook and a snap groove. So snap hooks are very common in plastic parts. If you ever take a battery cover off of a remote control or anything like that, it'll always have a snap hook to keep it in place. So what we'll do is we will create a snap hook for this part. So the first thing we'll make it, I'm only making it on the top because I have the lip here. So I'm going to make it on this top part is where the snap is going to be. So the snap is an interesting one in SolidWorks because we have to make sure against all of my likings, but we actually have to use untick the use fully defined sketches first. So that's the first thing you need to do before you get into. It'll cause a lot less issues and the error won't come up. So I'm going to choose a snap hook, and this first plane is select the position. So I'm going to put my snap hook pretty right about there. And you'll notice it already has placed something. So the direction, define the vertical direction. So I'm just going to select that base. So now we've got a snap hook. It looks nowhere close to where we need to be, but that's all right. So for my define the direction of the hook, I'm going to select this one, and I'm actually going to reverse it. So I'm going to bring it over to there. So I don't want it facing inwards because, again, the other part of that Lip&Groove is going to be there. So I'll reverse it, and now I can play around with these dimensions. So like other SolidWorks built-ins, it already has a lot of features already in. So I'll make this 3, that looks good. So I think this is saving some from my previous doing this one. So this is already set at 4. So I think we'll make it a little bit smaller. We'll make that 3. And then you can change any of these to look exactly what you want. So let's have a quick look from the top down because we don't want this sticking out that far. So that's going to be our F dimension. So maybe we'll make that 1, and we'll just bring that back a little bit so it's not protruding all the way out. We'll talk a little bit about making this in class together, but that looks pretty good. So if we click OK, hopefully with that defined sketch off, it places that in there nicely. So if we look at where that point is, it's actually defined by this sketch point. So I'm actually going to come in here. So all this point is a 3-dimensional sketch. We've done 3D sketches before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension this in relation to the origin. So like in 3-dimensional sketches, if you type the tab key, you can go into your different planes. So I'm going to put a dimension along, that's the X, and I'm going to make that 25. And then I'm going to do another, so, and a tab, that's the X, that's the Y, and then the Z. So I want my Z, and I'm going to make that 26 because that's going to pull it off just a touch. So we'll have a look at what that looks like. So now by making that 26, there's actually a gap between those two, which is probably what I want because these snap hooks need to deflect. And if it's right there on, that looked like it was about 27 before, maybe 27 and a half. If it is 27 and a half, you see the snap. This is the only part that allows displacement. All of this is basically static in there. So it doesn't have a very long lever to displace. So in order to make that a bit longer and make it slightly more realistic, we'll make that 26, and then we'll rebuild that, and that'll just push that off of the edge there. So I'm actually going to take this, and I could pattern it, but since I only want one in each direction, I'm just going to mirror it about the right plane, and then I'm going to select both of them and take the front plane, and I'm going to mirror that. So because I'm selecting everything first, it should allow me to quickly. So now I have those 4 tabs ready to go. So if we look at it from this front, you can see it's overhanging a bit into, let's look at it from the top actually. So you can see it's not really overhanging, so that 26 dimension might actually be a little much. So let's see if this doesn't kill all of my mirrors, because sometimes those can be problematic, and we'll rebuild. So now we have a little bit of an overhang for there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move over to, we're going to turn our top part on. And basically we're going to, if we were to look right now at right there in that part, so you'll notice that our hook is actually is interfering with that part. So now what we need to do is we need to basically make a cutout of that where it will actually snap into place. So let's do that. So we'll turn that off. And if we go into our insert, our fastening features, we're going to have a snap hook groove. So the snap hook groove is asking for this actual snap hook. So we'll select the snap hook, and then select the body. So the body is now this one. So if we look, and I've already played around with the presets a little bit. Normally it'll probably start out like that. So it's just the pocket. So this is pretty hard to fabricate or actually injection mold. So if I take C and push it all the way through, that makes it slightly less problematic. And just by click and go. So now if we look in here, and I think the presets wouldn't have had that gap, so I think I've already added a gap in there as well. So this E setting, I think originally that was 0, and I made that 0.5, and that just gives you a little slop in both of those directions. So that's for the one, and now we just have to do the same where we're going to mirror that and get that in there, and then we'll mirror both of those about the front plane as well. So that now creates this part. So that's looking pretty good. So we'll go into isometric, and we'll make this top part, we'll change its transparency so we can see what's going on. So now we've added in those 4 snap features. So maybe you assemble this, it snaps together, and then you're able to put your screw in to permanently attach it. So maybe this is some sort of temporary in order for some assembly. The last thing with these solid bodies is what we can do here is if we click on solid bodies, you can actually click Save Bodies. So do you want to continue with a blank template? We'll click Cancel. The default template cannot be found. We'll click OK, and then we'll just bring in that template. It's the same, so we're doing it twice, one for a part and one for an assembly. So this is one part, but really we have two. And if we've named, so we got to do this again. I'm not sure whether that's because of the Polytech parts or what, templates. So we have, I clicked auto assign, and that just pulls in the name that I had for my solid bodies. So if I were to click OK, what this should be doing is this will actually create both the parts. So then change the units to the drive part of the units of the base part. We're going to go yes and yes. So now what this is doing is this is actually saving out two separate parts that you can use. So if we look here, I have the one, so it's from, and that's my original file name. And here's my second one. So I've actually saved this single part, which is PCB 02B, and I've actually now saved it as the top and the bottom as a separate part file. So that's pretty useful now to proceed forward. So this is the top part, and the other one was the bottom part. So you can save out your single part with two bodies or as many bodies as you have, and save it into a multiples of parts. And that's where you would take that part. Each separate part would be, sent to the tooler to get quoted and made. Thank you.